All right, everybody. Thank you to our live audience today, and thank you to the people who are going to be watching this on Zoom. Here we are again with the guest artist series. My name is Ken Jones. This is our 7th guest artist, and I've been waiting for this one for a long time because I have so many personal stories about Aaron that I've really dug up a few that I'll drop out.
They're not true
as they come out. But today, you're lucky enough to see Aaron LaVigne, who has been graduated for how long now?
2005.
2005 from NKU. Whoa. And if you don't know who Aaron LaVigne is, then all you have to do is look at a picture of the Lloyd Webber anniversary tour of Jesus Christ Superstar, and he plays somebody in the back, some minor role, which we call Jesus. So he is the poster of Jesus. And just to remind everybody, you played Jesus here as well.
I did, yeah. In the Ken Jones production, 2004. We had, it was great, man. It was a rock show. Remember the rig? Remember the rig? We had this awesome light rig that was set up that was built for this. And then there was, when Judas died, it was flames. It was like these like torch flames. Yeah, we decided to burn him up instead of hang Judas.
Even worse death. And Roderick Justice, who played Judas, was our first guest artist. So 8 weeks ago, he showed up. Yes, and I think you. Where did you learn your Jesus hands?
I learned the Jesus hands from Ken Jones. One of the notes he said was, I was just being, whatever, a person, and then he goes, you got to use Jesus hands. And I was like, what are Jesus hands? He goes, Jesus hands. Let them flow a little bit. I'm like, all right, so I'll just walk around like this, like a little bird. And
now it's your life.
I know. I don't use the Jesus hands in this one, but I do other weird gestures. So it works.
All right. Not only was he in Jesus Christ Superstar, but he was also in Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark on Broadway. We'll probably jump into that story because that's a good one too. We'll go back to that, but backstage at Spider-Man, you were one of the casualties who actually broke his back while preparing for Spider-Man, Turn Off the Dark. Yeah. You were in the off-Broadway productions of Rent. Yeah. You also did the Civil Wars. Yeah. And what are your other 1,000 shows that you've done?
Regional shows and the National Tour of Rent for 2 tours. And that's, tons of workshops and readings and development stuff in New York.
And you were in the workshop production of the Broadway American Idiot.
Yeah, I developed that whole show, but I didn't get to go to Broadway.
Well, you got there another way.
We got there another way.
Yeah. So, Aaron, when you were a student here, what were you doing here so that they know? What classes were you taking? You were a musical theater major?
Yes, musical theater major. So if you want the honest truth, I had no idea what I was doing when I got here. I had done, what I had done? I started doing theater the second half of my senior year in high school. My teacher, I went to school in Cincinnati at LaSalle High School. My teacher, Connie Sejo, I took a class and she was like, you should come audition for these shows. Anyway, I did it and I ended up having a great time, loving my life and everything else and the people involved, the process. But I really didn't know what I was doing. So I got to NKU and everyone was very patient with me. Joe Conger was a great mentor when I first got here, and I just kind of was very patient with I didn't know how to audition. I didn't know how to stand there and give a monologue. I was just a nervous wreck all of the time. And I'm still kind of that way, but everyone, the faculty here was great. I ended up going into the musical theater track, but what was really great about that was I got to do the improv team,
which you were on for 2 years.
Yeah, so I did the improv team, and that was what really opened me up to just be a better actor and someone who just, can I curse or I shouldn't curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
No.
We're going to put a PG rating.
Doesn't give a crap about failing. You know what I mean? That's the biggest thing is you're allowed to fail in theater. You're allowed to fail in rehearsal. You don't want to fail at auditions, but you do, and that's the thing. It's a numbers game. We'll talk about that more later, but that's what it becomes. It's like a numbers game. I've had plenty of failed auditions. And I've had plenty of terrific auditions that I don't get the job. So anyway, it kind of allowed me to fail. And Ken would always let me know when I failed, which was great. And then
my specialty.
The other members of the team would let me know, but we would let them know too. So it was always a pretty safe and fun environment.
One story about him on the improv team, and this is the team pre Charlie when I used to run the improv team, is I cast him on the improv team and he came to me and said, I don't think you want me. I don't think I'll be a very good improver.
I probably was like that.
Yeah. And I was like, no, I think I see something in you. So let's try some stuff out.
Well, it was scary because I was, I'm just I'm a nervous guy about performing in general, I would say, but it was really scary. Just to open yourself up like that. I wasn't used to doing that. I never did that in high school. I didn't really have that experience. So I'm kind of a late bloomer on all this stuff. And you were like, yeah, come on, let's just do it. Right. And then we just acted like fools and had a really great time and had a lot of laughs.
Yeah. Now you did a lot of shows when you were here.
Yeah, did a bunch of shows.
You did musicals and you did plays.
Yeah.
You seem to be pretty much balancing from play to musical, and you did the Yes Festival.
Yes.
Unfortunately, our Yes Festival has been postponed from this coming spring, so they'll have to wait another year. But that's an opportunity that they'll find out. And we actually did. We were lucky enough to do a musical in the Yes Festival your senior year.
Wild Women of Planet Wongo. Yeah. And it was this crazy sci-fi 1950s kind of spaghetti western type of insane show, and it was pretty fun. It was great. We had this really cool Ken directed it. We had this really cool concept. It was
there was a lot of film involved.
Yeah, it was like this big film set of like this Star Trek style sitcom or something that we were filming. So we'd be in the play, we'd be in the midst of it, and then all of a sudden we'd like cut, and then we'd like whatever, like people come out and do your makeup and all this stuff. Then you just that was how we did our transitions and stuff. It was really clever. And then I'm remembering all of this right now. Yeah, it was good. It was fun.
Yeah, but the important part is when the Yes Festival comes up, something to get involved in. It's those shows are just as important and sometimes life-chinging.
For sure.
All right, so you graduate from NKU.
Yes.
And what happened?
What happened? What did I do? I'm from Cincinnati, so I lived here for 6 months. I had a horrible job. I worked as a waiter at this place called Buckhead down on the river.
Still there.
Yeah, and it was the worst job I've ever had in my life. And I'm glad I worked it. And they tried to fire me at one point. And it was because...
Who can fire Jesus?
No, but someone...
I don't think that's in the Bible.
Anyway, I was just like, it was like 2 weeks before I was moving to New York, and I was like, this is all meant to be. This is all meant to be. Bye, Buckhead. And, but I did a show at the No Theater, Tick, Tick, Boom, and it was, I just had these string of cool shows, like at the end of college, and then right before I moved to New York. Tick, Tick, Boom was one of those kind of next level things where, okay, it's, the show itself is, it's intense, right? A lot of these shows are intense, but the book, the script, it's basically a play, and then they just dump these songs into it. I had no idea. We'd heard this music. It's from Jonathan Larson, who wrote Rent. So I did that, and that was a really tough thing for me. And you know what? We got through it, and it was awesome. And it was a great lesson for me right before I moved to New York. And then I moved to New York in January of 2006, right after New Year's. And I was broke and cold and living with my friends and partying and having a great time and just hitting the pavement, showing up at auditions and trying to be there in the mornings. And I had another really horrible job there as a waiter right when I moved there. And my first job that I booked was this Frank Wildhorn show called The Civil War. And it was that really...
But you booked it, but that went outside of the city, right?
Yeah. So
you booked it in the city, but it was done
It was a regional gig in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania.
So they did it at Gettysburg.
Oh, yeah. And I'm a history nerd anyway. And being in those battlefields, because you're literally, a mile from the battlefields in this town, and the battle was in the town. There was bullet holes and cannonball holes and stuff throughout this town. So you really felt the gravity of the material. It had some good music. It wasn't like a life-changing show per se, but it's good to be able to use that gravity and that weight and to apply that to such an insane topic in American history. So that was a really good experience. I met a lot of lifelong friends from that. Half the original Broadway cast was in that, so that was really cool for just a kid out of college to be able to experience that. Me and like a couple other buddies of mine that got into it. Yeah, and then I toured with Rent after that. I kind of booked the show Rent after that. I toured that 06, 07 and part of 08. And then moved back to New York. Got an agent.
How'd you get your agent? I think that's the question. Do you have to have an agent? You booked all that other stuff without an agent, and then you got your agent.
I think you need an agent, yes. It makes life a lot easier. But when you first get there, I mean, you are your best agent. No one knows who you are. So you're the one, you have to sell yourself. You have to be able to, create those relationships, maintain them. Honestly, just do well when you show up at auditions, like be kind, there's a lot to be said about social networking and stuff like that. I was never great at that. I wish I was a little bit better, but I think part of your success comes from just showing up and doing good work and being kind and having a little bit of fun along the way. So what were we talking about? Oh,
well, another thing about your auditioning, even though you say you're nervous about it still,
yeah.
When Aaron auditions for people, you have this amazing either confidence or way of just being yourself.
Don't tell them that.
Yeah.
Yes, that's true.
He really is this person you see when he comes into audition. There's no fake or I'm trying to be something else. And then he opens his mouth, and if you saw Jesus Christ Superstar, which one of you did, you'll know what comes out of him. And then you're kind of blown away by the kind of natural guy who can sing like crazy.
Hey, I'll take it. I think that what you just said is important now. I don't think we weren't really taught that. That's a thing that we weren't really taught. We were about being present in the room and dealing with people, but I think trending in casting and the idea of coming to college and having a variety of plays and musicals and acting styles and working in the scene shop and I think is extremely valuable. I think for you to be a good company member, because when you join a show and you work for a company, you're a company member. No matter if you're the lead or if you're a swing or if you're a stage manager or whatever you are, you're a part of that company, and everyone is an equal part of that company. So I think that there's a trend now. When I first moved to New York, it was like you have to be a version of something to get the show, right? You're trying to like match with what you think that these casting directors or these directors are, wanting to have. And there's a little bit of that. Obviously, if you're going to play the beats, you're going to play what they're going for, the type of person. If it's a classic show, there's a certain version of that. But honestly, I tended to try a little bit of that, but I'm just not good at faking all of that stuff. And I wish I was a better actor so I could fake it better. But no, I really think that, especially now, whatever, long story short, now it's important people want to see who you are as a person. That's why casting people will cast you off of your social media, which I just think is completely ridiculous, but that's the world we live in. So they look at everything about you. They look at your online presence, they see if you're a decent person, to see what kind of content you put out, stuff like that. So, I don't know what my brand is. My brand right these days is kind of like dorky dad joke guy or something like that. I think that's what my brand is these days, with a man bun. So it kind of fall in this very specific category that we've all carved out here. But I think that that's important because when you show up and you have a sense of yourself and you can feel grounded in that, your performance is better, your communication in the room is better, you listen better. I can't tell you how many times when I first moved to New York, it was like, Great, Aaron. That was awesome. Now, can we try this? Can we do this? Let's get a little more specific about this. And I'd be so nervous. I'd be like, yeah, sure. And I'd try and listen, but I wasn't really listening. I was just trying to listen. But I had this energy about me that I wasn't quite listening. So, and then I would try and do the scene again or the song again, and it just wouldn't land. And I think that comes with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of experience in failing, stuff like that. But I think the more you can kind of bring yourself in, obviously you want to be able to show who you are, but a heightened version of yourself, obviously. But I think it's important to, I think if you can bring a calming energy in a room and a little bit of confidence in that sense, I think it's a calming energy for the people behind the table, because you're making their life easier, or you're making them laugh and just by being yourself or whatever. I think at the end of the day, everyone's just trying to get their job done. So that means casting, directing, getting the show up, getting good reviews, having a company with a show that lasts and for a long time. And it took me a really long time to see that. But I think that's worked for me. I think it's worked against me in some ways. But I'd say 25-30% of things that I've attempted or gone in for, and I land, it works for me. I'll say that.
Now, last week we had a gentleman named Will Brandstetter who said something really interesting. He said, you can't focus on this business 24/7. You have to have something else that's important in your life. And with Aaron, you write music, you record music, you have albums you've produced, and you have this whole other side of you that travels around the world, playing in bands, playing guitar, singing, piano, everything. Tell us a little bit about that side of you.
So I just decided I had a string of shows in like 2008, 2009. I was developing all of these shows in New York and doing a ton of readings and workshops. I got my equity card. All this stuff was happening. So basically what it came down to was this: I was working my ass off and I wasn't getting paid for it, basically. And I was surviving on all kinds of just dorky little jobs that you have to do, right? And then I booked American Idiot and developed that whole show over the course of several months with the original cast. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then while I was in that show, my agent called and was like, hey, it sounds like you're gonna get an offer from Hair at the Hair revival at the Public Theater. And I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm developing like a Broadway show right now, and I'm about to potentially be in another one. This is all happening while I'm doing all this. And then literally, they ended up changing the tracking on Hair because they were like, well, they were looking at you for a standby for one of the roles. I was like, oh, cool. And they ended up not doing that. And it was like, I just didn't fit into their plan. And then also American Idiot didn't keep me around either. And it was like, all of a sudden I had like nothing. And I was like, wait a minute, I've been working hard, doing what I thought was the right thing to do. You don't get it. It was a really hard lesson for me, but that is part of the business. Let's just be honest. It's nothing personal against anyone about it. But what I did was I took the onus on myself and was like, all right, well, I'm just going to stop doing theater for a little while. I started writing music. I was like, I'm going to record an album. I'm going to put together a small band, start gigging around the city, and then take it on the road. So that's what I did. And so since then, I do that a lot. So instead of having to have a survival job, sometimes my survival job is gigging. I gig, I play. I do guest artist gigs and concerts and concert work and sing with orchestras and do stuff on cruise ships. It's kind of randomly fly in and fly out and stuff like that. And then I also just do my own music. I just got back from a place called Ocracoke Island, and I was there for 2 weeks playing music outdoors and socially distant. And it's kind of a cool thing to do at this time, since none of us are really working. We can't have these large gatherings and stuff like that. But that's what I kind of call that practical artistry. It's not like a thing. Maybe it is a thing. I don't know. But I call it that because based on what you are, who you are, your skill set, how you want to live your life, like part of your whole brand or your whole, what you bring to the table is part of like your personal happiness, and being a grounded person is extremely important. So for myself, I was like, I hate working in restaurants. I did it twice, here in Cincinnati and once in New York. And I was like, I literally was like, I'm never doing this again. I'll never do it again, because I was so miserable. People treating you like crap, not making enough money. The restaurant industry is tough anyway. And like, I was like, all right, I'll never do it again. So I've kind of forced myself to find these different ways of survival, and also enjoying myself and growing as a person at the same time. So that's what this is. And I think that's kind of contributed to me having longevity in this business, because this business sucks, man. I mean, it kicks your ass. It spits you out. Sometimes it spits you out really quickly. So there is, I think it's just part of my DNA anyway to kind of stay hungry and stay a little scrappy, but let's do it now. Now I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, let's do it where it works for myself and for others, and we can all benefit from it, and I can make a living doing it, and survival and everything else. So,
well, what was it, 3 years ago now? You had a group called the Beatles Brothers then, but now it's called
Here Comes the Sun.
Here Comes the Sun,
Yeah.
where they don't imitate the Beatles, but they sing Beatles music, and they're all Broadway folks, and they were amazing. You're amazing. So I was calling him up to get him to come to NKU, which he did. Yeah. Brought the group here and played on this stage. But the funny thing is, every time I call him, I'm like, hey, what is that sound I hear? And you're like, oh, I'm at Diamond Head in Hawaii. And then the next time I talk to you about bringing, do you need this or something? You're like in another exotic location because of your music.
Yeah, because of music and singing. Like I said, like part of the, if you have to look at it like, if you have a big pie on the wall or something, and you start taking slivers out of this pie, like, where's my happiness? Where do I make the most money? Do I want to make the money? Do I not care about the money? Like, what kind of project am I doing? I think you really have to look at that as a well-rounded person / artist, because you're going to get to a point also where quickly, if you're smart enough to say, all right, I look like this, I sound like this, I talk like this, here are my skills. I'm not a great dancer. I'm horrible, absolutely horrible. If I was a great dancer, I could work all the time, honestly. I think because I can act good enough and I can sing good enough to be like, okay, I can at least be in the ensemble of these shows on Broadway and stuff like that. But I cannot dance. I am terrible. I tell you, folks.
We tried. I'm not gonna lie. We tried.
Except one time. Listen to this story. One time, I believe it was Ballet 1 or something like that, or Intro to Ballet. It was a very hard thing for me anyway. I felt very uncomfortable. I was in the room upstairs, the dance room upstairs. And at one point, there were several teachers, professors. Now, they knew I could take it, so I don't blame them for it. But they were all peeking their head in while I'm doing my moves and my routine, and they were pointing at me and laughing at me.
Who would do that? Who would do that?
I don't know. I really don't know. Some of these guys and gals, love all these guys and gals, but
every now and then you have a dancer like that who really draws you in.
Lies.
So if I knew he was going to have a class, I kind of gathered everybody together because it was worth it. It really was worth it.
Lies.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So,
but another thing that you do, and this is a really, really cool thing. You bought a house in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
A house that you had to kind of rebuild from the studs up.
Yes.
As a project.
Yes.
And you were doing that while you're doing Jesus Christ Superstar. You're doing it while you're doing Spider-Man.
It was crazy.
You're coming back and forth and working on this house yourself.
It worked out. The path to get there was not easy. It was probably the hardest thing I've ever done. I had a lot of help. My family, I come from a family of contractors and friends and whatnot. We found this house up in Norse side, and it was literally getting condemned. The house was on the market for less than $20,000, and then you had to get this big fat loan, an architect, city permits, all this stuff. So I basically spent 2.5 years doing that while doing these guest artist gigs, kind of flying to different parts of the world and stuff like that in the country, concerts and whatever else. And then also while I was auditioning for Jesus Christ Superstar, it took me a really long time to get this job, and several 2 continents I had to go through to even get this job. So I had.
Let's talk about that. I mean, you get the major role of one of the biggest shows that came out in the last 2 years. I mean, this was crazy.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get it? How many times did you have to audition? And then finally you had to go see Andrew Lloyd Webber himself. So let's tell that story.
Yeah. So I was working on the house in Cincinnati. And when I say working on the house, like living in this house, like literally, like I was living at my grandma's house. Thanks, Grandma. And then I would get up and I'd work 7 days a week there, all the time, pretty much. And I was managing the place, and I was physically doing work, and was purchasing and doing the whole. Anyone ever renovated a house? It sucks. But at the end, it's great. You get a really beautiful place to hang out in, which is awesome. But in the moment, you're just like, whoa, So then my agent in New York is like calling me and she's saying, we have this audition for this, we have this. And I'm like, she's like, come to New York and audition. This is before COVID when you tape everything, before you tape everything. And I was like, no, I'm not, I'd be like, I can't afford it. I'm here, I'm doing this other thing. I'm taking some time off, whatever else. She was patient with me. Anyway, so they started calling and they said, Jesus Christ Superstar is going on tour. It's the London production. Make a tape. They're doing an early casting process. And they had done this production in London and then they had done it at the Chicago Opera. And I had been auditioning till the very end for final callbacks for the Chicago Opera production. And I didn't get it. But it's the same director, same creative team from London. And I'm like,
so this is a really huge moment right here.
Yeah.
Because I remember talking to you.
Yeah, right.
And you said, I was really close to getting Jesus in this big production and he didn't get it.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
But then, here we go.
So then my agent called and said, well, they want you to make a tape of you singing the big song that you sing in the show. And I didn't say no. I was just so hyper focused on like building this house. That was what I was doing at the time. I said, they've seen me do this. I mean, I worked with them for 3 days in my final callbacks for the Chicago production. I was like, they don't know if they want me to do, if I'm good enough for this or not. And I said, well, yeah, sure. And I totally forgot to even make the tape. And then I think they contacted me again and she's like, they need you to make a tape. And I don't think I did it again because I think I was in the Caribbean working at the time. And then, so finally my agent called and was like, they really want to see a tape. So I made a tape and then they sent it to the people, the team in London. And they were like, great, his style's awesome and he sounds great. Now change everything about what he's doing. And I was like, okay. So I ended up making another 5 or 6 tapes for that. And then I went to New York and I did work sessions in New York with the producer and with the New York team. And then they flew me to London and I was in London for a week working with the British team and Andrew Lloyd Webber's team. So there's a lot. This is such a big show. This is like 50th anniversary of this crazy rock opera concept album that they came out with. You know, there's a lot of money on the line and I guess they were trying to figure out who I was. Like, can we trust this guy? And I don't blame them, but it took a really long time. It took the better part of a year. Me personally, it took me a little less than that because I had come into the process a little bit later in the auditioning process. So I got to London, have an amazing week in London, but I'm working hard for this to get this job. I go, our director, Tim Sheeter, he runs the theater at Regent's Park. He's a Shakespeare director. He's brilliant. Our music director is also brilliant. These guys are on a different level. So they're picking me apart and breaking me down like constantly this entire week. And I was ready for it. I was like, okay, let's do it. And then the final day they were doing a run at the Barbican, which is like it's like the Kennedy Center of London, basically. They were doing a run there. So they had the British cast there and they had the Sitzprobe, the orchestra was there. So they said, come in on your final day and sing with the orchestra. So I sang with the orchestra and in the show, Gethsemane, the song in the show, I play on guitar, right? So I just show up and they go, okay, the music director, Tom goes, all right, Aaron, go ahead, plug your guitar in and I'm gonna give you a 3/4 and then we're just gonna do it. And it's like this huge like warehouse, plug in, 3/4. Boom, bass kicks in right away. Everything's kicking in. Drums are like kicking in. I'm playing. I was just like, let's go. Did it. Thought I rocked it out. Place seemed happy with me. All of Andrew Lloyd Webber's people were there too. And then Tim, God, I love Tim. He pulls me aside and goes, I'm gonna need you to do that one more time. Just a piano and you though. And he gave me, I won't tell the whole story, but he gave me some very specific directions that were very like Hamlet, like Oedipus Rex, like tear your eyes out type stuff. And I was like, okay, I'll go there. And I went there and I was like, I don't think I can sing it though. He goes, I don't care about the singing. I don't give a shit about the singing. He goes, I want you to just do what I'm asking you to do. So I did it. And then he goes, that's the standard for the show. And I was like, oh my gosh, here we go. Let's go. But he's not wrong. So, right. And that was the standard that he needed to see in that context. You know, there's something about auditioning for something in a room like this, having a conversation versus me being on a tape on a Zoom call. I Zoom people. It's just a different experience. You want to have,
absolutely,
especially for live theater. You can hear, you can see, you can feel. That's what live theater is. So anyway, yeah. So I left London, and I was like, well, I either got it or I didn't. There's literally nothing else I can do. I get back to New York, or I was in New York. No, I went to Cincinnati. I forget where I went, but I get back to America, and I book 2 weeks playing music in the Outer Banks on Ocracoke Island. So I'm playing music every night, and I'm down there, and my agent calls, and she says, hey, no, the producer called me. That's what it was. Steve called me and said, hey, sorry about this, man, but on your tape, you said different lyrics, and they've changed the lyrics in the catalog, and they want to make sure that everything is on point to show Andrew before. He's like, you got 9 out of 10 approvals, essentially. There's like a whole board of people. Everyone has to approve it, and then Andrew's the final one. But they want to deliver the best version of you, and so there's no chance that he says no. Because if he says no, then then they start the whole process over of auditioning, and they were going to open the show in less than 2 months. So it was like down to the wire. Anyway, I'm on Ocracoke, this little island. This place is in the middle of nowhere. This is where the British captured and killed Edward Teach Blackbeard. This is legit, right? Middle of nowhere. And I do another tape in this yoga studio there. And then, I don't know, 3 days later, my agent called, and I had been up super early, and I was watching the sun, like basically just watching the sun come up on this little harbor. And she was up early and I guess she read her email or something. And she goes, you got it. And I was like, I didn't even say anything. And she goes, kind of anticlimactic, isn't it? And I said, yeah. And I was just like, let's do it. Yeah. So then it was like, all right, now we're going into this next mode of whatever weird career in life that I have anyway. So instead of having this house and whatever else that, in my apartment and my life and whatever else that was already changing, now I'm going on tour. So,
well, so now we're in Jesus Christ Superstar, but let's back up, because you went to Broadway with Spider-Man. Yeah. So you go to Broadway, you're in Spider-Man, and instead of getting hurt on the stage, which a lot of people were, you were in the practice room, backstage at the Broadway theater, and you went to do a pull-up on their.
Yeah, I was doing P90X because the show was incredibly physical, and I was trying to be a physical guy. And it was between shows. It's a terrible story, but like I was between shows, and I was doing pull-ups on the pull-up bar, and the bar gave out, and I was up, and I was like 5 feet up, and I fell, and I broke my sacrum, and I was paralyzed for 10 minutes. It was just really bad. So I was out of the show for like 7 months. It took me about 1.5 years to recover. So it was I ended up coming back into the show, and but I was getting hurt, my back spasms and whatever else. So take care of your body, guys. Seriously, in theater, take care of your body the best you can. Accidents happen. We all have them. Injuries. I was injured in Superstar too. Like, things happen, but really, really keep your body strong. Like, meditate, do yoga, like work out, like seriously get your core strong, get your legs strong, get your booty strong. It's very important to have all these things. And as you get older, it's harder to keep the muscle around and stuff. So eat well, and like you have to remember your whole cavity is very important. So so I rehabbed with that. I started eating better. I started doing whatever, and like finally, got out of that and jumped back into whatever my career was at that point, which was pretty much nothing.
So this is the story of the disastrous body of Aaron LaVigne. So we have a broken back now. He recovers from that. Yeah. And then in a horrible story, he's with his girlfriend in New York City. Yeah. And he's basically, she's threatened by a group of people. Aaron gets in the middle of it, and you are.
I got beat up
badly. So badly you couldn't play the guitar anymore.
Yeah, I got my hands broken, my wrist broken, and all kinds of stuff. Yeah, they attacked her. They ran into her, exchanged words with her like very quickly. These big, bad like coke dealer gangster guys from the Bronx, and we walked away. And then somebody hit her with a can of Red Bull and just chucked it and hit her. And I was just like, I've never experienced that in my life. So I was like, I turned around and just tried to defend ourselves.
And to put this in perspective, the cameras that
there's
saw
cameras.
this
They're everywhere.
This was one of those
Times Square,
scenes where it starts outside, but is thrown through into a shop. You thrown through the window and through the door, crashing into glass display cases.
Yeah.
The fight goes on with multiple people
Yeah.
beating you up.
It was 4 minutes. I don't know how I got out of it. It's just adrenaline. But
And you were then afterwards, the recovery was
my right wrist is still never fully recovered. I have some nerve issues and some things on my ulnar side. This hand's fine. But yeah, I mean, it's, that was just a choice in the moment where you say, well, I wasn't even making the choice. Like my body was making the choice. Like my instincts were making the choice. It was an animalistic instinct to go after a guy who's 6'3", 300 pounds, So, but that's part of just like I said, like an animalistic instinct in the moment. And they watching your girlfriend get attacked. I mean, I don't know what other people do, but for me, I was just like, you just attacked my girlfriend. It was just like one of those things just kind of happened.
And this was in the middle of tourist. This wasn't in a dark alleyway. This is New York City.
43rd and 8th Avenue. It was, literally I was meeting friends from Kinky Boots. We were going to get that work in the show that at the time Kinky Boots was open, and we were going to go out and have drinks. So yeah, New York's crazy. I had to say that's not the norm. I mean, you hear horror stories that happen every now and then. It's not the norm. I just happen to be one of those rare cases that happen. But, I learned a lot about myself too. And there's a lot that I bring to my artistry and songwriting and life. There's a lot of life lessons that make you a better actor and a better artist. And you may be an actor for the rest of your life, or you may graduate and you may not want to do it at all. You may want to try it and then you're like, this isn't for me or whatever, but you're going to have this experience going out and trying, doing the best you can. Like literally, that's why I tell everybody all the time, like, oh, you're this. And I say, well, I'm just doing the best I can. That's pretty generic. I'm like, literally, that's all I'm doing is the best I can do. That's all we can really do is put the effort in, give a shit, and do the best you can. That's all.
Now, you've always been somebody who took care of themselves. You were into finding peace. And
yeah. I like to party too. I used to like to party a lot too.
Yeah, well, we don't want to talk about that. That ties into the dancing. But then, okay, so we have a broken back. We have somebody who lost the use of basically your arms.
About this. This is great.
All right, but now we're in Jesus Christ Superstar. So you think in Jesus Christ Superstar that you're going to stand on stage with your Jesus hands and people are going to dance around you. But that's not what happens in this version of Jesus Christ Superstar. So
very physical,
as it goes on, they beat you up. And what you were just telling me, tell them about how you have to take care of yourself, because what happens to your body every night that you do this show?
Well, when you do a run, especially if you're in college or if you do a summer stock run or something like that, you're only doing the run for a month or a few weeks, whatever. But you have to remember that when you're in a long running commercial production, or long, most of the long running shows are commercial productions, right? Wicked's been open for 20 years, and Phantom's been open, whatever. Any of these shows, Cats, Wicked beats up people all the time. All these poor ensemble kids, and Wicked get their bodies beat up. Our show is pretty physical. The choreography is pretty intense. You saw it. It's intense, right? Yeah. It's incredibly physical. I don't dance in the show, but like for my track for Jesus, the ensemble is it's basically this giant beehive, and they basically they're like a mob. So as much as Judas and Jesus tell the story of what's happening on stage, the ensemble is like kind of like moving the story along. They kind of like progress the story, and they do it with Jesus a lot. So I'll be playing Jesus and I'll be doing the show, and then the ensemble just swoops me up and just carries me or throws me and does this thing, and it's all part of like the next part of the story. And so in the beginning of the show, they're praising this guy. They love this guy. He's like this rock guy. And they're like, this is this guy's music, his message. This is the way. This is the way of the world that we believe. And then it just then they just turn on him basically. So then the same people who build this person up are the same people who destroy this person. So they destroy it. Their whole demeanor changes. The choreography changes. They, instead of like lovingly picking this guy up and praising this guy, they beat the crap out of this guy. So it's, it's simulated, but it's like simulated torture. The Superstar song is like, they're in robes and they're having this like out of body experience. And at the same time, like what they think is a god or whatever, and then they beat up this guy on stage and they kill this guy.
Which is you.
Which is me.
Getting beat up.
Yes. So for me, a lot of it's simulated, but it's just this really like tortured, herky-jerky stuff, and I land a lot funny, and I tumble a lot funny. And when you get older, your body starts to fall apart a little bit. So you have to stay in really good shape. You have to roll out. You have to stretch. You have to work on your core. You have to go to physical therapy. So I was in physical therapy quite a bit. I had some issues with my hip, and at one point my shoulder, I had some bursitis in my shoulder. I couldn't lift my shoulder over my head, and it was just a thing. But this is all part of theater in general that you're going to deal with. But yeah, I had some pretty funky injuries. My hip, my groin. Yeah, things got pretty wild for a while. And the issue with that is it's hard to recover because you need time and rest to recover from. Luckily for us, we had these breaks. We had a couple breaks where, a week off here or a week off here type thing, like just our schedules worked out. So I could use that time and go to physical therapy, rest, ice, heat, rest my mind, and then do core work and stuff like that. So it's very, very important to keep your body. Like your body is your health is the most important thing in the world, bar none.
Well, one thing I think your focus, even when you was a student, there was no doubt in our mind, any of our minds at NKU, of where you were going to try to go, and ultimately where you were going to end up. I mean, you were one of those people who knew that you didn't necessarily say Broadway, but you said, my next thing is I'm going to get a professional gig. I'm going to get a professional show. Now I'm going to get a bigger show. Yeah. You kept changing your goals, building your goals, traveling forward.
Well, what are we capable of? Like, what are we actually capable of as individuals or as a collective or whatever? I think that if I was discovering my capacity of who I could be, and I'm not changing the world by that, but I think that you have to have that kind of drive, especially as a freelance. We're freelance workers. That's what. Welcome to a career in the arts, kids. It's going to be awesome, but you're going to be your own boss. That's how this is going to work. So you're going to have to deal with that when you make great money, when you're injured, when you're broke, when you're broken, when you're happy, when you're sad, when you're making crazy, huge life choices, just relationships, anything, friendships. There's a lot. If nothing else, I've become a much more grounded person in my own life, my own experience, through my experiences. I think it actually helped me get Jesus Christ Superstar because I was calm. I didn't have this energy walking into the room when I'm working with them to be like, all right, give me this. I just was trying to have a conversation. Like, what do you want? Like, what do you need from me? How do we get there? And also let's just be cool. Let's be cool people. The world is a crazy place. We don't need any more drama. All the drama's out there on stage. Let's try and be grounded in this. I don't know. I think it worked for me in this instance. I don't think it always works for me, but I think that I think it's worth noting that I think that I don't know. That's just kind of how I roll. I don't know. We all have different ways to approach our stuff, but I think the idea of giving yourself over to somebody else for a greater good, for a project, or for the art you're trying to create, or the friendships you're trying to maintain, or whatever. I think that's really important, and I think Ken was really really showed me that, because I knew in college that Ken and I were going to be friends forever, basically. We just knew that. I felt like I knew that at least. Yeah. We had a good, fun teacher-student relationship, but we were also buddies, and we goofed off, and we had the improv team and everything else. I was like, oh yeah, Ken's one of my mentors, so that's how that works. And I was just like, that's what that is, and that's not really going anywhere. So yeah. But we earned it though. I feel like, right? Yeah. I earned it, I guess. I don't know.
I think you did. I think it was your dance.
He didn't. I don't think Ken knew what to think of me at first.
I didn't.
I don't think anybody did, because I was kind of goofy, we're a weird guy.
Yeah, I think I might not have cast you in a musical to start off with.
Probably.
Just probably because
you're like, who's this weird guy with the blonde person? Yeah.
Okay. So,
sorry to call you out.
The one of the amazing things that you did is that throughout those years, I would get phone calls where you're auditioning for something, you got something, or you didn't get something. And like American Idiot, I remember you being in that.
Yeah.
I remember getting the call that,
oh my God, yeah.
listen to what happened where you didn't go to Broadway with it.
Yeah.
So you have these ups and downs, which they face all the time. And they've especially faced it, as you have, when your tour was canceled. By the way, he told me that the tour will happen next year again. So you have an opportunity to see Jesus Christ Superstar. It got canceled right before it got to Cincinnati. But somewhere see him in it. And can they bang on the stage door and see you afterwards?
Or
do you jump into a bus?
No, that depends on COVID, man. I mean, COVID, but it depends on all that. I think that we don't know what the future is right now, other than that the show survives. The show is surviving, and we're all anxious to get back to work, and we're looking forward to it. But they're probably going to change the protocols for backstage stuff.
Yeah.
And I couldn't.
Do you even come outside anymore, like at the Aronoff when you were?
Well, I would have, but I don't.
So they might keep them together like the NBA did, in a quarantine group,
maybe,
and travel from unit to unit.
Yeah, it could be a thing where I think they're gonna have to figure out how to link the cities, because it's different on a tour. The thing with being in the NBA, you're in a bubble, but you're in one place and you're there for 8 weeks, whatever. We're on tour, we travel every week or every 2 weeks, or whatever, and we're also exposing ourselves at airports and wherever else we go, hotels, or what your living situation is. So I think it's going to be tricky. I think that the future is, I think if we are aggressive as a collective of humans, we can get back there a lot quicker. I think that we're going to probably need a vaccine, or at least rapid testing and stuff like that. And I think that's the conversation that anyone, producers, smart people who are trying to get things back on track are having. Like, how do we do this? What are the scenarios? And I think that's what most of those guys are and gals are trying to figure out in this moment. Like, how do we do this? Because everyone's ready to get back to work. Like, I don't want to not work. We all want to be doing this. You guys want to be on stage performing and like actually having the whole experience to figure out how to do this and what to learn. And you're having a very different experience right now. And I think there's probably a lot of value in that. I think we're all humbled a bit, right? But yeah, we want to eventually be in a place where we can not have to wear masks, and we can play on stage, and we can go to a bar and have drinks and socialize and stuff again. So I think that for as much as people say, well, it'll be like this, it'll be like that, I think we're all just going to have to figure that out and work together on that and see what that will be. And then they can open up theaters and opera houses and, concert venues and stuff like that again. So yeah, it's funny times, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. A very practical question for you that I know a lot of them want to know. When you first moved to New York City, and then throughout your New York City stay, where did you live? What part of New York City did you live in? Where did you move to? Where's your apartments?
Astoria. I've lived in Astoria I was subletting. I think I had like 3 apartments I sublet, and then I moved into one. 2. I think I did 2 or 3 sublets, moved into one apartment, and then I moved into another apartment. I was at my last apartment for the majority of my time in New York. I was there for almost 7 years. Yeah. Astoria is an awesome neighborhood. If you guys ever want to live in New York, it's probably expensive now. It is expensive.
Yeah.
But
it's about 20 minutes from Midtown.
Yeah, about 20 minutes from Midtown. It's really calm and quiet and cool. The restaurant, I just like the food and the restaurants and the vibe. A lot of people I know move to New York now, and they live in Washington Heights and Inwood and stuff. And I just never was into that. I never wanted to live. I wanted to live where it was quiet and I felt like I wasn't in the city, and still have all the amenities of the city, like the food, like honestly, like New York City has insane food. So I was like, okay, let's live in an awesome neighborhood. And I had a lot of friends there. So I did summer stock at the Lost Colony for 2 summers. And I met a lot of people from all around the country who worked there.
Which is North Carolina. It's an outdoor drama.
Yeah. And I had a great creative team from New York and stuff that were working on it. And they basically hired it was a big show, hired 60, 70 college kids. And we, had the summer of our lives. Anyway, they were all moving to New York, and a lot of these guys and girls were moving to Astoria. So I just moved in with some of my friends. And then once I was there, I was like, I started, I had a bike. So I started seeing different parts of the neighborhood, playing music, doing this. And I just always loved Astoria. So I lived in Astoria. Great. And I just moved out of my apartment. Funny story. I just moved out because I have this house here in Cincinnati now, and there's no use of me paying for an apartment when there's no industry there right now. So I wonder if anyone has any questions about what the future is going to look like, because I might be able to help on that too at some point. Yeah, well, just like what it's going to look like moving to New York, big life moves like that.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's a lot of question marks surrounding that. So
Yeah.
if anyone does, ask away later or whatever.
Yeah. Well, let's open up for a couple questions right now. Yeah. Field.
So when you're talking about taking care of your body, what would you say is like the best food or drinks to eat? When you're,
Okay. The question is for people on Zoom, when you're talking about taking care of your body, what's the best food to eat or plan to eat?
I don't know if I'm an expert. I'm not a dietary expert, but I will say this, like, I'm not in the best shape right now. I'm not. I've definitely given myself a bit of grace in this COVID period of my life or whatever. But when I'm really trying to hit it hard and be in good shape, I do just cut out your carbs. Like I eat a lot of quinoa based stuff, vegetables, greens, high proteins, low carbs, low sugar. Sometimes I do intermittent fasting. I'll do that for a month or so, and just kind of where you don't eat for 12 hours or 16 hours, you eat at night, then you wait till lunch basically to eat. And if you do that along with a workout regimen, and you're putting just whole foods into your body, cut out processed foods. I just try and do that. That being said, I ate almost a whole pizza 2 days ago.
There's the Aaron LaVigne, I know.
No, but I mean, I was like, there's even right now, to be honest, like I have this thing where I'm like, all right, stay in awesome shape. We're all doing it. Every actor in this industry is doing it, but everyone's like, at the same time, you're like, oh God, we're not going back to work for a while. So you're like, just give me a sandwich. You know what I mean? So drink that 6-pack, whatever it might be. But I really do think that I eat a lot of quinoa. Quinoa based diet is how I roll.
And when with Aaron and in a couple of weeks, you can talk to Angie Shore. You're basically, when you're on tour, you are a professional athlete.
Yeah.
I mean, your body is that of an athlete.
Yeah, it is. And I think that's one of those things where you have to treat your body like a vessel. So we were talking about living in bubbles and hotels, which is hard because the way that our show is set up and the way touring is set up for commercial tours you get an option to live wherever you want. They say, here's a hotel option, or here's money to go live however you want. And I almost always take the money, and I get an Airbnb because I want a full kitchen, because I cook for myself. I just want to be able to control what I eat versus like when you're on tour, like sometimes your options are whatever's around your hotel. And you can eat healthy and stuff, but you don't get to control your portions and you want to eat certain foods so your body recovers like as quickly as possible also. I wish I had more specifics on that, but I definitely stick with just a lot of green whole foods and quinoa and lean meats basically. I don't eat a lot of red meat every now and then, but I think it's just the proper portions too. We tend to overeat, right? I think Americans in general tend to overeat, and if you just do proper portions and exercise and hydrate, and just be a little strict about that, it's amazing how you can get yourself to a proper place and feel good. Keep your core and your legs strong. I think that's what I've learned over the years. Your core and your legs are really, really important.
All right. Last question. Anybody have a question? Yeah.
I heard you talk about vocal health, like you had some damage during Jesus, I think is what you were telling him earlier when I first walked in. Can you just speak on vocal health on tours, like what you did?
Okay. The question from the audience is about vocal health. How do you maintain it during the tour? How do you keep your vocal strength? And have you had vocal injuries?
I have never had a vocal injury. I thought I did a couple of years ago, and I went to my auntie, and she was like, "No, you look great." I'm like, "What's wrong?" But I have issues with my sinuses, so I've had several sinus surgeries, like deviated septum, cleaning my sinuses, turbinates, like just random things. And I have really bad allergies too. So my biggest thing with that is, how do you approach it? You have to approach it like as a big picture type thing, because it's not just one thing. You have to take the allergy medicine that you need to take to survive, right? based on the region you're in or based on what you're allergic to. But if you take too much, then you're dry and you can't sing and you're pushing. Or if you're too clogged up, then you're pushing and you're going to hurt your vocal cords or strain your muscles. I've had some muscle things in my neck where like if I'm struggling, you know, if I'm sick or something and I'm trying to push and it all comes from, you know, from here and it comes up to here, that's really unhealthy. I've never had any vocal cord damage. Honestly, like when I'm gigging and stuff, like my 3 rules are like hydration, sleep, and then nap. If you need the rest, you have to rest your body. And you have to stay extremely hydrated. I drink coconut water. This right here is like, this is the jam right here. This is for me at least. This will keep you hydrated. This will, if you want to work out, this has plenty of electrolytes in it and plenty of like your basis for amino acids and stuff. It's amazing. So I tend to drink one of those every day on tour. Sometimes 2 of those every day. Also, I think part of it is like warming your body up. If you warm your body up, if you do some yoga or if you do 20 push-ups or something like that, just getting your blood flowing and like getting your muscles moving and stuff, I think it tends to radiate through your whole body. So then by the time you have to go out there and you're on your 6th show of the week or something, or 7th show of the week, and you're like, I don't know if I got it. Like I'll be out on stage sometimes and I'll be like, I use a dynamic mic and I'll sing the first night of the show and I'll be like, can't sing. Fuck, what am I gonna do? Can't sing. Like I'll do it all the time. And then I'm like, all right, where are you today? So then you're like, find ways to like place this beast of a role, you know what I mean? And that's kind of, you have to be able to navigate all this. But I think if you start with my little concoction is like Claritin, Mucinex, but I do like, I dose on Mucinex. I do a half of a Mucinex if I need to, or I don't use it at all. I only use it if I need to. And it depends on where you are and the region you are. I'm a little stuffy right now, but we're dealing with the fall and ragweed and stuff here in Ohio and Kentucky. So I think it's just being mindful of that. I think you have to be hyper aware. Don't freak out about it, but that and just sleep and hydrate, man. You have to stay hydrated, and you have to sleep. I really think. And you know what, depending on your style of singing and whatever else, continue your training, work, do your exercises, work with these professional people who can keep you in a place and keep you on track for the role that you have to do. I've kind of, I go in and out of vocal training, but I work with some pretty good people and they give you some really great ideas and tips and I absorb them. I just listen. When I was in school, when Mark Hardy was here and stuff, I would just listen to everything he said. And whether it was what I was going to do or not, I would just be like, okay. And then I remember all that stuff because that to me is important to just understand other people's experiences. So yeah, for me, it's rest and take care of yourself and have a little fun. But at the same time, just know that you have to sleep this much every night. If you can't drink alcohol, if it affects your voice, don't drink alcohol. Don't smoke cigarettes, don't smoke weed if it affects you. Don't do these things. Whatever you need to do to stay in this place, that's what you have to do. And you just have to you have to respect your body, you know what I mean?
All right. That's all the time we have today. Thank you, Aaron, for coming back to the homeland. And thank you for being out here today. April 13th, we don't have our next guest artist will be here on Friday, the 13th of November.
Hey.
Yeah, I'm still back in April. November 13th, and it'll be Angie Schwar. Angie Schwar is an alum of ours who was in the original producers on Broadway. Catch Me If You Can on Broadway. Something's Rotten on Broadway. She's got a bunch of Broadway shows. And so come here and see her then. Thank you, Aaron. Ken Jones.